Okay, so I'm sitting here live with Kelly Foss. Any relation to Greg Foss?
Ooh, no.
No? Okay, he's a recurring guest on here, actually.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
what does he do?
He was a credit market trader, but now he's a Bitcoin maximalist. He's actually the opposite of you guys. He's not a minimalist. He's a Bitcoin maximalist.
Well, maybe he's a minimalist in other areas of his life.
He could be. He could be. Yeah, definitely not with podcasts, though. He's a podcast beast. He comes on here and he just kind of tears it up. But anyways, and Lauren Morley. And you guys are the Millennial Minimalists.
Yes.
We are.
Okay, so what is the Millennial Minimalist? For anybody that doesn't know, give us the quick intro.
So we are Millennial Minimalists. We built this podcast back in 2018. We help people simplify their lives and live with greater intention every day. And it's super rewarding. We started the podcast again 5 years ago. And my goodness, it's been an amazing journey thus far. Lauren is the innate minimalist, and I am the minimalist adopter. So that's a dynamic between the two of us. And we have one-on-one conversations where we talk about our lifestyles and our experiences and our tips. And then I also interview best-selling authors about their experiences, their books, and their insights to share additional information on this lifestyle and how to better your life.
Those conversations with the authors and everything, is that all based around minimalism?
Yes. Everything is focused on personal development. So minimalism is about living a simpler, more intentional life. So we can talk about everything, which is the most amazing part of this topic. And, you can never run out of things to talk about. So I've interviewed everyone from Gretchen Rubin. So she's a huge New York Times bestselling author. She talks about she has a book called Outer Order, Inner Calm. So it's like once we have outer order, we will find inner calm. We talked with Nir Eyal, who talks about how to manage distractions in our everyday. We talk about how to live more mindfully, how to be more focused at work. It's just endless conversations. Like, who wouldn't want to live a simpler, more intentional life? That's what I always like to say. Yeah.
So is that how you would define minimalism? Is just a simpler, more intentional life?
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's more to it. It's an opportunity to remove the excess from your life so that you can focus on the things that are most important to you. And it also really challenges you to face yourself in ways, because once you've removed that excess stuff, whether it be physical or mental or digital, you then have to say, okay, well, what am I going to do with all of this newfound time that I have, this time and space? And so
fill it with more stuff?
Yeah, I mean, and then that's a part of it. You have to manage everything.
That's the maintenance mode. That's the constant
maintenance
fight.
part. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And Lauren, so you're the innate minimalist. So have you just always lived a very simple and intentional life, or at least aspired to, and it was just kind of in your nature to do that?
Yeah. So ever since I was a kid, I thought I was so weird because people thought my bedroom was a spare bedroom. My parents would be like, what do you guys want for Christmas? And I would just give them one thing. Like I thought I was a weirdo. And, even my desk as a child, when everyone had them stuffed full of folders and highlighters, I had my one pencil in my desk, and I just love simplicity ever since I was a child.
So why were you like that? It was just,
I don't know.
Did you already feel the benefits, or?
Yeah, I liked a distraction-free surface. And, I think because my parents are boomers, I grew up in a home with a lot of stuff. And I always said to myself, one day I'm going to have my own home and it's going to be so simple and so beautiful. And, and yeah, even once I was older and had that home, it was just anyone who came to my place, they'd be like, oh, did you just move in? And I had lived there for 5 years. But yeah, I've always lived this way. And when I found the documentary came out on minimalism by the Minimalists, it was the first time that I was able to define my lifestyle and realize that how I lived, other people actually aspired to live that way. And people wanted simple, as Kelly would say, simpler, more intentional lives with less stuff. So I felt like I was onto something.
So these guys, the Minimalists, they came out with this documentary. Would you guys say these guys brought minimalism to the mainstream?
I would say, yeah, absolutely. They are one of the initial pioneers behind the movement. There's a lot of people in this space, from Leo Babauta. He has a blog called zenhabits.net, and he's one of the top 25 bloggers in the world. There's I just interviewed him last week. Joshua Becker, he's a father, so he gives the perspective of being a minimalist as a dad. And then we came in and we said, hey, here's a female perspective, and two young millennials who are adult children who don't want their parents' excess stuff. It's a major problem, as Lauren said. The boomers, we both grew up with so much stuff, and we learned we don't want your stuff. And we have many listeners who are in across all generations. It's not just millennials. We speak to Gen X, we speak to the boomers. A lot of the boomers want to know, like, what should I do with this stuff now that my children don't want it, right? So there's a lot of questions that we get to answer.
So do you think there's like a foundational difference between boomers and millennials in general with how they treat stuff?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think boomers they're in a generation where their parents didn't have a lot of stuff. So it's a learned behavior that, hey, the more you have, the more successful you are. And so they clung to their stuff. And then now we're in this society where we're like, we don't want your stuff. We feel lighter and more free without that stuff. And, Joshua Becker always says, a lot of people, maybe the life that you've always wanted to live is buried under everything you own. And I think that's a great line, because it just reminds you, it's like, wow, like this lifestyle helps you remove all that excess so you can really see clearly and see what truly lights you up as well.
So how do you make the connection between the stuff you own and like the life you've always wanted? Like where's the connection there?
Yeah. So a lot of
I know it goes deep, and trust me, I've gone down this rabbit hole, but I want people to see that connection. Like, what does all this extra stuff or clutter have to do with living a better life?
Well, a lot of the time we cling on to things because we don't want to face the reality of things, right? So we hold on to all this excess stuff thinking that it's going to make us happy, when really it's just a distraction. So for me, for example, I was going through a career transition in my life at one point, and this is 2018, right before we started the podcast. I always loved producing content and writing. I knew that. And I was running a community empowerment event based off a podcast I was listening to in the personal development space. And then I'd been friends with Lauren, and I saw how she lived, and I was like, wow. So I started removing that physical excess, and I started with my closet. And it was the solution to me feeling lost in life. It was like, wow, once I started getting rid of all the stuff I hadn't used for a while or was no longer me, the things that I clung onto that were fantasy versions of me, I was like, no, just let it go. And I started asking myself, oh, wow, everything became more clear. My thoughts became more clear. I started meditating, and I feel like meditating is a way to face yourself and to face your own thoughts and realize, hey, no, like everyone has that gut feeling, and it enabled me to chase that gut feeling and start that podcast with Lauren. But we'll go into detail about our story because it's really funny, actually.
Okay. So how did you guys meet?
On Craigslist.
Ooh.
Who
was searching for who?
So I sell real estate in Toronto. I was in my early 20s. I just started, and I was advertising other people's listings, rental listings on Craigslist. Okay. And Kelly messaged me to see one. And she, doing showings, I know you're in real estate, so especially condominiums downtown, everyone always complains about how small the closet is. And Kelly showed up, and I was like, oh, this girl's going to complain about the closet. And I said to her, I'm like, I know the closet's small. And she's like, oh, I don't own that many clothes. And I was like, oh, and we should go for a drink. Like, we have a lot in common. And then we just kind of became friends from there.
That was it.
That's
just from the one showing. Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, Lauren's like, she's like, oh my goodness, me neither. I don't own many clothes either. And then I think I asked you out, right? Yeah. I was like, we should do coffee.
So did you guys, well, you're always doing this, but did you intentionally go down the minimalism rabbit hole before you started decluttering your closet?
So it was actually our friendship. So spending more time together. My parents always had a lot of stuff. I never loved having a lot of stuff. So I didn't have that much stuff, admittedly, before adopting this lifestyle. in terms of the physical side of this lifestyle, right? Because there's many, many areas of excess in our lives. But I remember going to Lauren's house and thinking exactly what she said before. I was like, wow, like, did you just move in? Like, everything was just perfectly placed. There was a home for every item. And that's something we recommend our listeners do. Have a home for every item so you don't waste your time looking for items. So many people, I forget what the stat is around that, but it's like we waste so much time every day just looking for things.
I know.
And getting dressed in the morning. We'll go into that. Helping people get dressed in the morning within seconds. It's just helping simplify decision making every day. So anyways, I saw how she lived. I started decluttering my closet, and then I started meditating, and then I started writing down my thoughts, and I started simplifying every other area of my life. Like, you go on down this wonderful rabbit hole. It's like you declutter one area, then you start decluttering other areas, from, your relational clutter to your spiritual clutter. There's so many areas of excess.
Yeah. Once the ball starts rolling, you really build up momentum, and you're like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next? What's next?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a rabbit hole, eh? That's exactly how it happened for me. Like, once my girlfriend came over, and she's like, she just made this one little comment. She's like, you have a lot of like knickknacks like in your room. I'm like, what are you talking about, knickknacks? Like, these are souvenirs from my travels. Like, what are you talking about, knickknacks? And then like the next day I was looking around my room, and I was like, oh my God, she's right. They are knickknacks, at least to the outside eye. But then I was looking around, I'm like, I haven't even looked at these things in so long. Like, they have no meaning to me anymore. And, then I was really struggling with what to get rid of. And I think I was searching Google for help decluttering or something, because I was just really struggling with the process of like what to keep, what to get rid of. And that's how I think discovered minimalism content specifically, which I really needed, because it gave me a framework and rules that I could stick to for decluttering, which was huge for me, because you really do face yourself when you're getting rid of stuff. You face your past life, you face your future aspirations, which aren't really happening because maybe you've moved on from them to like take a different path. You just face a lot of uncomfortable emotions. Mm-hmm. It's very trippy. Mm-hmm. And people might be like, yeah, dude, like, get over it. Just get rid of your stuff. But I'm telling you, there's something more to it.
There's something so much more to it. And I always like to say, the minimalist TK Coleman, his line is so beautiful. He says, minimalism isn't so much about things. It is about the baggage that we've accumulated over time that gets in the way of us being our true selves.
Yeah. Or being who you want to be.
Yeah.
And even look at, like, your trips are in your memories. They're in the photographs. They're not in little trinkets around your bedroom. Like, I think that's such, a realization we all have to make, is that our lives are not lived in our stuff. It's like lived in our experiences and our memories. And yet we try to bring it down to this little souvenir we brought on a trip.
Yeah. I realized those things just triggered the memory.
Yeah.
And it's really just the memory that I wanted.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I realized I didn't need the actual thing. I just needed to trigger the memory. And so a lot of those souvenirs that I gave up, I just took a photo of them.
Yeah, which you can do.
And now they don't clutter up things, but I can go back and look at that photo. I'm like, oh yeah, I had this ridiculous stingray hat. It was like a plush stingray hat that I bought when I was a kid at the Vancouver Aquarium in the gift shop. And it was just in my closet. Like, I didn't have it out, thankfully, in my 20s, in my room. But I was like, why am I holding on to the stingray hat? Like, just take a photo of it and move on with it. It just became so ridiculous after I realized how many knickknacks I kind of did have in my life. But in your guys' own journey, what were the benefits? I feel like you've always just lived this life, so I'm not sure if there is maybe as much of a contrast as you might have, Kelly, with some of the benefits you had when you started decluttering.
Well, for Lauren, I mean, you can speak to this, but she realized that she's an innate minimalist when it came to the physical things. But other areas of excess, like mental clutter, emotional clutter, spiritual clutter, digital clutter, relational clutter, those are all areas that Lauren realized, like, I need to work on that as well. So
yeah, for sure. Or even calendar clutter. Like, my condo was empty, but like my calendar was jam-packed. So it's definitely, people think you can get rid of your stuff, but there's so many areas. And I still struggle with mental clutter and emotional clutter and, finding ways to meditate and to clear my mind and like live a calm life, because that's the way my physical possessions are. But yeah, like Kelly said, there's so many areas.
And you guys notice an ongoing benefit from sticking to this practice?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, for me, I'll start by saying there's 5 ways that this lifestyle has completely changed my life for the better. The first
got them categorized. I like.
Well, yeah. The first is it's helped me let go, but in all areas of my life, let go of physical things might be clinging to certain thoughts and ideas and, unlearning ideas that no longer serve me today. We learn so many ideas as a child, and then we grow up and we're like, wait, I don't really associate with that anymore. So it's realizing that. It's helped me live closer to my values and, see my family, be intentional with my time, where I'm spending it. I like to say it's also helped me gain the time and space back to explore my curiosities and build a passion. And my passion is to connect with people and to inspire other people to fully see what really lights them up or pursue the thing that lights them up. So it's given me that. It's also given me the space to live be my authentic self. I was shy my whole childhood, and when I tell people that, they're like, really? Like, they cannot believe it because I'm an extreme extrovert. But I was super shy at one point. And now I'm like, oh, I can just embrace myself. And, I've been able.
So how did minimalism help with that?
Oh my goodness. Like it enables you to be more mindful and more present in your everyday. Once you clear the excess, the distractions, you're more at peace within yourself. So then you can go out in the world and just embrace yourself. And you become a better listener. You're not always looking for that distraction. You start sitting back. There's a sense of calm that you gain when you let go of all the stuff that is just a distraction. And lastly, it's helped me turn outwards. It's given me the time and space back to help others, to volunteer more, to inspire other people, to listen to other people. I find a lot of us, we're not as good of listeners as we think we are. So,
do you feel like you have more time than you did before?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you struggle with time?
You know what? I mean, I think there's no way to perfect it, but I definitely have a time management system that I follow these days that helps me manage my time. For me, what I learned about myself is that I can have a passion project or, a work project, and I can spend 5 hours on it if I don't tell myself, okay, you have a 2-hour window to do this. Because if I do that, then I'll get it done in 2 hours, which is great. So I'm better at managing my time right now. I'm also, this lifestyle's helped me figure out, okay, what's essential and what's non-essential. There's an author named Greg McKeown. He wrote a book called Essentialism and a second book called Effortless. I interviewed him about both books, and Essentialism helps us figure out, okay, what's essential in our life and what's non-essential. There's so many people in this world, they feel overwhelmed. There's not enough time in the day. It's like, well, first thing I would recommend is take a step back, figure out what's most essential to you, and then eliminate the rest.
How would you define essential?
So the things that are truly meaningful to you, bring value to your life. Yeah. The things that are non-essential is everything else, basically.
Everything that does not bring value.
Yeah. That's right.
So it's deciding between the two.
Mm-hmm. And the decision-making process is the hardest. And that's why I think a lot of people struggle these days, because of the paradox of choice. And we've had Barry Schwartz on the podcast. He's the thought leader behind that. And it's all about, we're so privileged, right? As Celeste Headley would say, she says, we have time to stress about things. And, stress is a privilege in ways.
Yeah, no, it is. We live in excess. Like more people, I think, in the world now struggle with obesity than with starvation. Like it's just gone completely the other way.
Believe it.
I've heard other stats about like that the minimalists have said about how the average American household has, I think, 300,000 items in it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Isn't that just crazy to think about?
Crazy to think about.
And then I heard another one that it's America has 3% of the world's children and 25% of the world's toys. And that's just like gross to think about, right?
Yeah. And I mean, we get a lot of questions about toys.
Yeah, do you?
We get a lot of listeners that say like, what do I do with gifts that we don't want? And so I always say, set the intention first. Tell people, hey, our kids don't need any more stuff. Right? Mm-hmm. We don't have children yet, but we like to give our advice. And my mom's a daycare worker. She was for 30 years. So I always have the advice from her, which is great. But that's a common question. So I like that you bring that up, because a lot of people are like, oh, what do I do with this gift or this unwanted gift? And I always say, the gift is in the act of giving. So you can do whatever you want with that gift after you receive it.
Yeah. You can quietly pass it on, maybe.
Yep. You can re-gift it. You can sell it. You can do whatever. I'll never forget. I bought Lauren a orchid once, and I was like, if she throws it out in 2 days, I'm totally okay with that. And you did.
Yeah, the point was the thought, right?
The thought, exactly.
Yeah.
Throw it out, or you can just leave the gift to the person's house who gave it to you.
Yeah.
No, that's funny.
I'm a big regifter, so if I don't want it,
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Right.
sweet, that saves me a gift for next year or whenever the next occasion comes up. Let's just pass it on.
No, that's smart.
So how do you recommend people start with this journey? I guarantee a bunch of people already listening being like, yeah, you guys are nailing it. I feel this way. I feel like I don't have time. My closet's cluttered. My home is cluttered. The toys are all over the place. How do people start? Like, what's the easy access point for people to get into this?
I would say, the biggest benefit of minimalism is that you're going to get time back. And time's the one thing that, you can't buy time. Mm-hmm. So, and you think of all of the time it takes to go to work and make money and to buy things and all the time you spend shopping or returning things and managing that stuff. Minimalism gives you all of that time back. And for me, that's the biggest benefit that I've gotten out of this lifestyle, is to pursue my dreams and my passions and my creativity. So I would sit down and write out, what would you do with your life if you had significantly more time? Like, what are those massive, ambitious goals you could go after? Like, would you spend more time with your friends, your family? What hobbies would you have? Like, where would you put your money? What would you invest in? It's realizing, this life of your dreams, this like vision board, if you could do it, instead of sitting drowning in all of your personal items that you probably don't use that much, if at all.
Yeah, it's almost like trying to invest when you're already in a bunch of debt. It's like you might be better off just getting rid of the debt before you start investing, because it's like this huge headwind pulling you back.
Yeah.
And just cut the excess. It's like discipline through subtraction. It's like get rid of the stuff holding you back, and then you're free to move so much more faster and quicker and better because you don't have the stuff dragging you down anymore.
Mm-hmm.
No, for sure.
Well said. I always say start with why, just like Simon Sinek's book, start with why. Figure out what is stressing you out the most. Is it the physical clutter in your house? Is it the mental excess? Is it all of the ideas and thoughts that are not serving you? Is it digital excess? What area? And then I would focus on that area first, and then it will trickle into the other areas for me.
It's tough to even have the time to focus on that when you're in that state of just chaos with so much stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why it's good to compartmentalize. Okay, like, where am I going to start first? Okay, like if let's say mental clutter is the most challenging, it's like, okay, what am I going to do first? Okay, I'm going to get a therapist, start with therapy, or I'm going to start writing down my thoughts and recycling those pieces of paper. Just physically writing them down can be very, very helpful. Start talking to a friend. There's all these things that you can do. And that's what we talk about on the podcast, like all these different outlets and all these ways that we can help you in those areas. For me, I started with my closet, and then it trickled down from there. And it's so rewarding.
It really is. It's like the best feeling on earth.
It really is. You want to know why it's the best feeling on earth? Because it's a sense of freedom. Yes. When you don't have much. So and earlier in my life, like I used to be a model, and I lived in Hong Kong and Tokyo. I got to live in Los Angeles as well, which was amazing. I got to travel the world, and in traveling so much, you learn to travel with a light carry-on, and you don't want to have a lot of stuff, because first of all, you don't have much space in a model apartment, and second of all, you just learn that you just feel, I feel overwhelmed when I have too much stuff. Yesterday, Lauren asked me, she's like, "Oh, what would you prefer, to have more stuff or like more mental clutter?" And I was like, honestly, I'd rather have more mental clutter, because I think my physical calm space helps me keep calm mentally. Totally.
It's like an extrapolation of your inner world.
That's right.
That's just like the book I think you mentioned, Outer World or something.
Oh yeah. Outer Order, Inner Calm. And I think it was the minimalist T.K. Coleman. He also said that physical clutter is a manifestation of mental clutter.
Yeah.
So if you can keep a clean space, it will help you mentally as well. And I really think that is one of the first steps.
Yeah. And it's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
When it comes to the physical stuff.
They definitely
Because the physical stuff causes so much mental clutter. And the mental clutter causes all the physical clutter. Like if you ever see someone's desk and it's just covered in crap, like books and papers and stuff, like those things are all robbing your attention. They're grabbing your attention, and it's just like all fears and little things that you don't want to take care of and that you're procrastinating on, and all these negative emotions just calling out at you as you sit there and try and focus on one thing. Like, good luck with that. It's just not going to work.
For sure.
And if you have a listener who's thinking, yeah, I'm so distracted all the time, I recommend Nir Eyal's book, Indistractable. It is so good.
Okay.
There are so many tips that you can take away from that book.
Okay, cool. So at the end of this podcast, I definitely want to get all your guys' best resources. The mental clutter, the physical. So do you think it's the physical clutter starting for people? Just that's the easy access entry point, is start with the physical?
Yeah, I mean, I always say start with your closet because it's the place that we go into every morning.
Yeah.
Again, start with your why. But if it is physical clutter, you wake up in the morning, you go into your closet, and if you're seeing all 4 seasons in your closet and 100+ pieces of clothing, that's the first decision you have to make every day. And if it's a very challenging decision, that's how you're starting your day. That's not. So anyway, Lauren and I, we decided to put our 2 heads together and build this closet decluttering e-guide, our own method, which was quite the success. We sold out of those e-guides, and then we decided that we would have an electronic virtual version of the e-guide, which is on our website for people to download because there was so much demand. And then now Lauren runs closet decluttering courses with our listeners. So live courses. It's incredible.
So is this something you do on like Zoom, or are you going to people's places and actually helping them?
I have gone to people's places more as just like a learning experience, but no, I do them live over Zoom and they're pre-recorded. But I think the closet's such a great place to start because most people only wear 10 to 20% of their wardrobe, and we all have to get up and get dressed every day. So my system is creating outfits you can wear in rotation. It allows you to wear your entire wardrobe. You can get up and get ready quickly and efficiently. You can look nice every day without any effort, and you're really only shopping once or twice a year. So the average American is purchasing about 68 new items a year.
Damn. Clothing. Oh my gosh.
So with my system, you're looking at about 4 or 5 if we can get down to that. So, once you've done your closet, the beauty of minimalism is that you use all of your stuff. Everything you own is of use to you. It's of value to you. You love it. And when you start with your closet, you're wearing 100% of your clothes. That will trickle over into other areas of your life. And to start with your home, I would walk into a room and say to myself, what do I do in this room and what do I need to perform those activities? Your living room. Maybe you watch TV, maybe you read, I don't know, maybe you play a board game on Saturday night, maybe you entertain. What do you need to do that? A few pieces of furniture, a book. I read digital books, so they're on my laptop, a television, maybe a board game. But yet most people's living rooms are jam-packed with stuff. They use them as storage rooms of stuff that has nothing to do with, using that room as something where they can go and enjoy. And, starting there, what do you use your office for? Well, I need to work. Okay, besides a laptop and maybe a glass of water, what else do you need to work at your desk? Like, why do you have all of these piles? I understand people have paper but we are moving towards more of a digitalized society. So just really becoming aware of your surroundings and what you actually need and forcing yourself to use your stuff. Be like, okay, like for instance, your stingray hat. Be like, I'm going to make myself wear the stingray hat.
Oh my God.
And if I'm not going to wear it, then I have to get rid of it.
Yes. Yeah. That was, I guess, what went through my head subconsciously. Like, I am never wearing this damn thing. Okay, so the closet thing specifically, you mentioned you have a system. Yeah. What is the overall system if you had to sum it up? So I create 20 outfits. You can have more, you can have less. 20 is kind of my golden rules. Is this like a capsule wardrobe?
No, it's not a capsule wardrobe. Okay. I do not like the capsule wardrobe.
So quickly, can you explain what that is?
The capsule wardrobe. Yeah. So there's 2 big ways of doing your closet: the 10-item wardrobe and the capsule wardrobe. The capsule wardrobe.
And does this apply to both men and women?
It does. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've tested it on both.
Awesome.
So the capsule wardrobe is where you have a collection of pieces that all go with each other. And the 10-item wardrobe is where you have 10 items and extra pieces. But I argue that not all pieces go with each other. And they're always like, oh, I'm going to buy this. It's a very versatile piece. No, it's not. Like, you're not going to wear it 10 different ways. You're not going to remember all the different ways to wear it. Just create outfits, take pictures of them, and wear them on rotation. I promise you, it will simplify your morning routine so much, and you will realize the clothes you actually like and that you actually look good in. So even Kelly and I getting ready for this interview, I was up and out the door, and she's like, I don't know what to wear. We need to do my fall winter wardrobe.
That's right.
And I just sat there. I looked through the pictures. I'm like, I'm going to wear this outfit, put it on, and was out the door. So I wear 100% of my wardrobe. I get ready in a minute or two every morning. And yeah, I feel like people have these wardrobes stuffed full of clothes, and every time I see them, they're in like sweatpants because they're like, I'm not going in there.
Yeah, it's just too chaotic.
It's too chaotic.
It just reminds me of my dad. He has a full workroom full of tools. He has every tool under the sun, but he can never find the damn tools.
Right.
Because the tools are just, they're in 3 locations. They're scattered all over. I'm like, Dad, you would be 90% more efficient at all the jobs you do, because he's a really handy guy, if you just organized your damn tools. You would know where they all are. Like, you would cut off 90% of the time doing the jobs, because most of it's spent finding the damn tools.
That's right. It's like that Alanis Morissette song, 10,000 spoons, but all you need is a knife.
Yeah, okay, so
Well, wait, this is the advice I would give your dad. I would take the tools that he uses most often and put them in one place, and then the tools that he needs is sometimes, and then get rid of all the duplicates and the rest that he never uses.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
That's great. So it's just so overwhelming to deal with it. Like, my dad has just avoided this problem for his entire life, just dealing with the tools. And I kind of get it. Like, it's just so overwhelming. It's such a big project. Having these rules really helped me go through all this stuff. Did you guys have set rules or frameworks you were sticking to or continue to stick to deal with your stuff?
I mean, it's really it's a mindset. It's a learned behavior, and it then influences all other aspects of your life. So for example, talking about the closet. So once I decluttered my closet, you go through this short process, and we talk about it in our e-guide of, you have a keep pile, you have a sell donate pile, you have a recycling pile, and then the pile, of course, that you're letting go of. And after that, and once you have everything lined up, you get an idea of what you own. And then you start realizing, you can now invest in higher quality pieces, because it's really about price per wear. People think, minimalists, they don't own many clothes and their clothes are probably cheap. No. We focus on sustainable, high quality materials that will last us a long time.
Quality over quantity.
Quality over quantity, so we don't have to keep replacing these items. And you know what's the best? Honestly, I used to go into my favorite store, Aritzia, for example, and I used to be overwhelmed. I'd be like, oh my goodness, I like everything. I was just so anxious because I liked everything and I didn't know where to look or where to go. And even now, it's like 2020 specifically, I bought one clothing item all year. And it's because I now know what I own. So when I go into a store, I'm like, I don't feel overwhelmed at all. I feel like I don't need anything. Every time I go into a store, I'm like, I don't need anything, because you know what you own, so you know what you need.
Yeah, you can go in there and just snipe things.
Yeah.
Instead of like machine gun spray, just buy everything.
That's right.
This is my guy logic to buying women's clothing.
Right, and it's a mindset. You become more intentional with everything that you do in your life, and of course, it's imperfect. I always say it's imperfectly perfect, because it's not about perfectionism. It's just about living a simpler, more intentional life. I can't press that enough.
It's a practice.
It's a practice. People think, minimalism is a cult. It's like, no. Minimalism is just a mindset for being mindful and living out a life that's true to yourself. And I argue that it's the most fulfilling way to live.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. Just the freedom it creates.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, there's no better feeling than just decluttering, purging, getting rid of that stuff. So I know people are thinking right now, listening to this, especially because we have probably a bit of an older audience. How much stuff do you guys actually own? Because someone might be listening and be like, how do these girls live? Like, do they have 3 spoons, 2 forks?
Well, why don't we describe each other?
Well, actually, I moved in with my boyfriend about a year ago, so my place was significantly more empty. But do you want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that. So Lauren's space before she moved in with her boyfriend, very, very minimal. It looked like she had just moved in. It looked like a stage place for, a home that someone's going to sell. And I loved it. I remember opening up her cupboard and seeing all the glassware neatly aligned. And I was just like, wow. It's just like really, really, it used to be our recording studio for our podcast. It was always Lauren's home. Then she moved in with her boyfriend, and originally he's a lawyer, so he has a lot of books. He has a lot of stuff. But Lauren was able to just organize it all and go through it all with him. And, we always say if you lead by example with your own lifestyle, other people around you will start noticing the benefits and start picking it up.
It's a big part, the friction, right? Between the people that you live with.
So Lauren's boyfriend's been so amazing in that regard. He's seen the benefits in Lauren's life. And so he's following suit, and Lauren's house is beautiful, but I know Lauren always, so I just moved into a new apartment, and Lauren's like, every time I come here, I feel like it's just like you have less and less and less. It becomes a little bit of an obsession, but yeah.
But you've got what you actually use. So you've got maybe your couch, a little coffee table.
Oh my goodness.
Like it's not like, what's the word, an aesthetic lifestyle? Is that the word?
For sure. I mean, minimalism is a certain aesthetic, but it's also a lifestyle, I like to say. And if you walk into my house, you walk right in, you turn left, it's the kitchen with a large island. I accessorize with candles and maybe fresh flowers. Then you go into my living room, and my old living room, I had a couch and a TV and all these shelves and all this stuff that I never watched the TV. So I said, when I move into this new house, what is my intention? Okay, what do I want to do in this room? Well, I want a stand-up desk because I want to work. I want to keep building what we're doing right now. My mission is X. So I have this white stand-up desk. It's very minimalistic. I have a couch, a side table, a plant, another plant. It's very simplified because when I walk into my place, I want to feel calm. And a lot of our listeners ask us, like, how can I make my place feel more calm when I walk in the door? And so we share our advice on that. And gosh, it does wonders. And, I always say, keep your place so it's always ready for company. My dad told me that when I was young, and I live by that. And, doing the dishes before you go to bed. So when you wake up in the morning, like I wake up in the morning every morning, and I'm like, I feel so grateful. I live in the city, and I don't live in a massive apartment, but I live in an apartment that is conducive for my lifestyle and good for one person. And I feel so grateful, and it's like clean and spacious, and yeah. And
have you ever seen those heat maps of how people live in their home?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where they only use like a certain percentage.
Like 10%, 20%, like anything in life, like the 20-80 thing.
That's the problem I see. It's like people buy these big homes, and then they end up saying, oh gosh, I have all these rooms. Well, now I got to buy all this stuff to fill all these rooms. But you don't need to. Lauren came to my house the other day. She goes, I love how you have cupboards with shelves with nothing in them.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Well, Kelly and I definitely love the aesthetic of minimalism. Like, that's super simple, only like a few pieces of decor, neutral colors. I love opening up a cupboard, and it's just a few glasses lined up, and, the uniformity of dishes, like just the peace it brings you in the morning. Like, even after you took the knickknacks out of your bedroom, do you like the way it looks?
Of course. Yeah.
Yes.
Everything in my life is better since adopting this kind of lifestyle. Yeah. Everything.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
Yeah. And I still have a long ways to go. And as we were kind of talking about before the podcast, like I'm more of I would label myself an aspiring minimalist. I know there's still stuff that is holding me back that I haven't got rid of in all areas of my life. And it's a continuous practice, like it is for everyone. Like, you just grow out of things.
For sure.
And it can be quickly, like, 2 months before you had a certain lifestyle or whatever, now things have shifted. And you got to eventually make that shift to keep up. Otherwise, your old little past life starts dragging you down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that this lifestyle is specifically great for people who are going through a lifestyle transition. It's a clean slate. It's a fresh new start. Yeah. I like to say.
I'm really glad I found it before I moved to Oakville this past year, because I moved into a brand new apartment. Yeah. And I was so intentional about every single little thing. And I didn't have a couch for 2 months, because I was like, let me see where I actually spend time in this apartment.
Smart.
Like, where do I actually want to sit down? Like, where does the light come in and I actually want to hang out during the day on like a Saturday afternoon? Like, how big of a couch? How much am I realistically going to use? Like, if I get this big, is it going to take away space here? Like, how do I actually use my kitchen? Like, when I'm cooking, I notice like the spices, like if I just move them to this cupboard, it'd be way quicker. And then, when my girlfriend's in the kitchen, I'm not reaching around her to grab this. And it's like being intentional about every little thing, which might sound anal or like unnecessary, but all these tiny little things I found compound. And then all of a sudden you've saved hours upon hours. Like I deleted social media from my phone. How many hours has that given me back?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what do your guys' phones look like and your digital lives? How do you guys keep that clear?
All black.
Yeah, same. So my phone's in my bag, but it's fun because whenever someone says, "Oh gosh, my phone is such a distraction," I'll say, "Well, check out my system." Basically, we take all of our applications and we put them in one folder at the bottom of our phone. So when we open up our phone, it's clear. It's just a clean picture, or I'm black as well. We just keep a black image so that, the thing is, when you open your phone, it's got all those red dots. Those red dots are telling you this is urgent, when really they're not urgent things to respond to. And gosh, having the phone, I try to put the phone specifically in another room while I'm working. But then of course there's applications on our computer now that we can send through iMessage or whatnot. You got to be careful with that. Shut those off. There's all these things that we can do we are distracted every few seconds. And so to be able to manage that is, you know those feelings where you get in that flow state?
Yes.
It's the best feeling in the world, right? And I feel like we're kind of in a flow state right now. Which is
yeah, because you're locked in. Yeah. I find that with podcasts, when you're having a really deep, meaningful, engaging conversation, you're locked in. You're not thinking about the shit you have to do after this or whatever.
That's right. And we don't get many moments of that. But with this lifestyle, we do, which is great.
You really find that?
I do.
Because like, I believe it and I'm all in on it. And, I've tried getting people in my life all in on, and they're like, yeah, like, shut up. You know what I mean? Like, there's such pushback because I think it reflects all the clutter in their lives back onto them.
For sure.
Yeah.
And they might not even consciously realize that. And what I've definitely learned in my life, when I find something that I get very passionate about or that I think will improve other people's lives, I have made the mistake in the past to try and push it on to other people as opposed to leading by example. And now I'm like, man, you live your life, I'm gonna live mine. If what I do inspires you in some way, great. I'll be happy to chat with you about it.
That's right.
And I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
And the beauty of minimalism too is that, you start getting rid of stuff and then it's like, oh, I don't use this, I don't want this. And then you start questioning other things. It's like, do I like my job? Do I like my partner? Do I like my friends? Like, do I like how I spend my time on the weekend?
Yeah, let me get rid of this fucking partner.
Yeah.
This guy's dragging me down, man.
No, I love mine. But, it does. It makes you question so many things. Yes. And aside from the aesthetic, one of the other things I absolutely love about this lifestyle is that I'm such a passionate person. Like I have so many interests. I have done stand-up comedy. I sail, I ski. I'm a huge reader. I podcast. I sell real estate. I teach courses. Like I have such a full life because I'm not sitting scrolling on my phone all day. I'm not wandering around the mall. I'm not cleaning stuff, like dusting little ornaments on my shelf that there's 100 of them. Like I have so much time to live my life and live these experiences and pursue my dreams and spend time with my parents and my friends, or just sit alone and look out the window and collect my thoughts. So it gives you all of that stuff back, and it's so beautiful. I feel like, you say your friends and family who push back, once they see the benefits that you're reaping, they'll, first they make fun of you and then they ask you how you did it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. People are envious of how Lauren lives now. And speaking of the phone, I want to go back to that. I interviewed Catherine Price. She wrote a book called How to Break Up with Your Phone.
Okay.
It's a really, really good book. But in our discussion, in the interview, she talks about how she was off for maybe a book signing or something like that in New York, and she was in a cab, and the driver, she was in the cab, and she was just sitting there in the back, not listening to music, just looking out the window. And the cab driver said, "Is everything okay?" Because he was just like, "You're so present. You're just looking out the window." Like she was just enjoying peaceful time for herself. She wasn't looking down at her phone. I find a lot of us, we feel the urge to always look down our phone, especially try to spend, and I'm speaking to your listeners, try to spend a full day without carrying your phone outside in the world and see how everyone interacts with their phone. Like you're in an elevator, everyone head down at their phone, right?
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because we are more connected than ever, but we're also more disconnected. So, and it's something that we always think about in this lifestyle. It's like we we have all this stuff. People accumulate stuff to feel a sense of connection, when really we actually need more genuine connection with people. There's this lovely lady named Tracy McCubbin. We had lunch with her in Los Angeles. She's a decluttering expert to the stars. And she talks about how we end up clinging to our stuff because of an emotional issue. It's an emotional issue for all of us. It starts there. She says there's emotional clutter blocks. So those are the things like, oh, I'm going to hold on to X item because my mom gave it to me, even though I don't use it. Or I'm going to hold on to that guitar because I want to learn how to play one day, when really it's a fantasy version of yourself. You know you're never going to play.
Yeah, like you mentioned that earlier, and I really like that. I've never heard that. It's a fantasy version.
Yeah. So we cling on to these things that we think that we'll use one day, but we won't actually. Or we there's all these pressures to hold on to these things. There's these clutter blocks that block us from getting rid of them. Or there's things that we hold on to that maybe are causing negative thoughts to come and arise into our minds, which is not good. It's like maybe you received a gift from an ex or something. It's like, is that serving you today? If it's not, then let go of it. So there's all these clutter blocks. But another step further is she talks about clutter magnets. There's clutter magnets, and these are the things that cause us, these are the emotions that cause us to buy things we don't need in order to fill an emotional void. So she gave the example in our interview about how there are some people who are so lonely that they'll go to a store just to connect with the salesperson. They'll buy items because they want a sense of connection, right? And like that's, they buy all these things even though they know they're not going to wear it, but they go there for the connection.
Retail therapy.
Yeah, that's right.
Jeez. So is this where clutter just stems from? Is just emotional blocks and negative emotions and just trying to avoid those emotions? Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that we accumulate that we don't use. Yeah.
What has been the hardest things for you guys to get rid of?
Oh, for me, the area of excess that is the most challenging, the areas of excess that are most challenging for me that I'm still working through. It's a constant journey. It's a lifestyle journey. Lauren and I are hoping that we run this podcast through for many, many years. Maybe when we're grannies one day, that'd be incredible. Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing.
This is just like a passion project of your guys.
This is 5 years in of so much learning and learning with our listeners, right? It's a journey for us together, which is great. But yeah.
The hardest things that have been to let go of. Yeah.
I mean, I would say that digital clutter is the most challenging for me. I used to love taking pictures. So all through my university years, all my travels as a model, I have so many pictures. And so right now I'm taking time every single day. You got to chip at it a little bit each day. It goes a long way to, what are my favorite photos? Keep those. I've got way too many photos in my phone. So digital clutter is something that I'm working on. Although compared to my friends, not as bad, but it's still, I want to be more intentional with that. Lauren and I joked the other day, we're like, if someone ever takes our phone to take a picture of us, let's tell them we only need 5 photos, not 25, but not one, because we want to have an idea.
Yeah. Well, delete 4 and keep the one.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
But digital clutter, and Lauren and I, we're so lucky that we have each other, because mental excess is something that is very challenging for the two of us. Mental clutter is, we're pursuing our dreams. And sometimes when you're doing that, it's very hard because it's not the status quo, and people around you, your peers, aren't always living the life that you are. And a lot of the time as an entrepreneur, you're working by yourself. And so you feel very alone in that. So I think having, a therapist, having friends like Lauren, really helped me manage that mental excess.
Do you guys serve as accountability partners for each other with the minimalism specifically?
Oh, absolutely.
And your struggles to get rid of things?
I'll never forget. We went to an event. Gosh, I think this was last fall. I love gift bags. I've always loved gift bags. But the freebies that you get. I grew up with a mom who loves freebies. Who doesn't really? Yeah. Right? And I'll never forget the time when Lauren's like, no, I don't want that. No, I don't want it. She's almost scared of freebies. It's so funny. And now I'm like, no, I don't need that. Yeah. I actually won something the other day. Won something that is really substantial. And I won it. And it was the first time in my life that I was like, I don't really need this. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I won an iPad. Okay. And I'm like, but I don't really need this. So it's like, I want to be intentional. So it's lovely to win it, and I'll definitely use it towards something else that I do need. But
so you kept the iPad?
I kept the iPad, but hopefully I can exchange for something that I do need, right?
Yeah,
so
you could sell it, donate it.
That's right.
Give it to a friend.
That's why I say, the gift is in that active giving. It's up to you what you want to do with it once you get it. So,
yeah, you really have to play defense with this stuff. Like, you have to put the walls up and be like, no, I'm not taking that. Nope, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah, it's decision making. It actually simplifies decision making, which is great. We have to make so many decisions every single day. And for me, I would say that the most challenging thing for me in my entire life was making decisions, making discrete, concrete decisions. And this lifestyle has helped me become a better decision maker.
Yeah, we all suffer from decision fatigue, and it's literally a muscle. And the more decisions you make as you go through the day, you wear down that muscle. And like your point about the clothes, it was easy for you to pick out what to wear because you didn't have to make 19 decisions that kind of wore down on that muscle. So now you're going to have more willpower later on in the day to exercise if you want to exercise, to not snack if you don't want to snack, whatever it is you're trying to do. Like, when your willpower is depleted at the end of the day from making these decisions, you suffer the consequences. But if you can just eliminate those decisions entirely in the first place, then you leave yourself a lot more willpower. And then I think being disciplined is much easier. Like, for sure. I've learned for myself, I need to go to the gym the very first thing upon waking up, because it's actually the easiest way to do it, because I'm not thinking about it and dreading it later on.
Right.
My willpower hasn't run out yet. So people hear when I wake up early, I go straight to the gym. Like, I told my buddy that the other day. He's like, that's nails, man. I was like, trust me, it's not. This is the coward's way out, because it takes so much less willpower to just get up, because I'm waking up halfway in the middle of my workout. I'm like, trust me, this takes less willpower than going after work at 5 or 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just frees up space.
Did you go this morning?
I did.
Oh, amazing. Do you put your clothes out the night before, so it's like, that's the first thing I have to do?
And I roll into it and put it on.
Oh, that is so great. Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
And then right when I come home from my workout, I throw it in the wash, take a shower, whatever, and then I set out the clothes again.
Oh.
And I'm like, all right, you know what you're doing.
So automatic.
Yeah. And so that's another huge thing I've realized is a lot of minimalism is just building systems.
Yes, I live my life on systems. My meals are systems. My closet's a system.
So how do you, so what else is systems? And then how do you actually systematize some of these things?
So my closet, 20 outfits, and I do them for spring, so warm months and cold months.
So 20 for each?
Yeah.
Okay. And there you would consider just the 2 seasons, like cold and warm?
Yeah.
Okay, so not like a 4-season thing?
No, I don't do 4 seasons. I just wear a heavier coat or change the shoe if...
Like you layer up in those little spring-fall transition. Okay, so 20 outfits, that's including gym?
No, gym and sleepwear is extra.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but just like living your life outfits?
Yeah. You can have more or less, so it will vary a bit, but 20 is kind of the golden one. And then my meals, I have a list of breakfast, lunches, and dinners that I just make on rotation. And I only have the ingredients and the stuff that I need to make those meals in my kitchen.
I feel like you don't even have to try at this. You're just like, this is how I live my life.
Yeah, this is just who I am. But there's other things I struggle with. Like you were saying, what are you still working on? And I really struggle with mental clutter. I'm like, I'm sure later today I'll be going to bed. I'm like, should I have said that on the podcast? Did that sound stupid? Like it's that, mental clutter going through your mind. Or, I feel like millennials run a little bit on the anxious side, or, I worry a lot. My mom worries. I love her, but I definitely get that from her. So I still struggle with that mental clutter. And I aspire so much to have this like calm, peaceful mind, and calendar clutter. I'm always, anytime someone's like, let's do this, let's go here, let's book this. Yeah. I'm always up for it. And now I have to stop myself and be like, if you have to go to that right now, would you want to do it? I'm like, oh, probably not. No. I'm like, then say maybe, or I'll let you know, or tell them you can't make it. There's so many. If
you don't want to do it now, you're not going to want to do it later.
Yeah, I always ask myself that, because there's times, it's like, do you want to go to a Jays game on Saturday? Sure. And then it comes up, it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to go now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, this lifestyle is also about helping us be more intentional with our time, which means setting boundaries, right? And Lauren has come a long way with that. I remember Lauren was always, yes. And I was like, oh, I can always count on Lauren to say yes. And then she started saying no. And I was like, oh, but I was like, I respect that. I was like, I respect that. I know, absolutely do. And we, on the podcast, we talk about how to manage FOMO and how to manage FOBO, which is the fear of better options. I mean, gosh, we
social media is just the worst.
Social media, dating apps. We live in this world where, if something breaks, we don't fix it. We just buy it. We just buy something new, or we go to the next person. Something's imperfect, then we're just, oh, there's another person. It's unfortunate. I think we need to sit back and think, even with our stuff, it's, hey, if this is broken or if this is getting worn out, how can I still use it? Or you're having a conversation with a friend or you're not seeing eye to eye on something, and you sit down and you converse about it. Let's solve the problem versus just leaving the room. And that's the beauty about Lauren and I and our relationship. If we ever have an argument, which is extremely rare, it lasts probably seconds.
What would you guys argue about?
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know, just like when we're traveling and stuff, but it's so funny. We'll like come to each other in a calm manner and be like, oh, I didn't like when you did this. And we're like, okay, well, when we work through it.
Yeah. So. Which is good. Yeah. I think that's important. But I think it's because, we always say, what I've learned in my life is that the whole point of life is to let go of our ego. And so I think living this lifestyle as well, it helps you do that. It helps you say sorry. It helps you be like, oh yeah, I was in the wrong. I'm sorry about that, right?
Yeah, even just the clothes. I was wondering, like, when you say you have 20 outfits, was it a struggle to get past what others might think of you if you just have 20 outfits, which is a lot of outfits?
Yeah, that no one would bat an eye. No one notices.
Nobody notices.
Right? In fact, I think I wear more of a variety of outfits than people who have these jammed packed closets and who are always at the mall or just wearing, what's on the floor because they don't have time to figure out what to actually wear.
Yeah. Huh.
I've even, some people, I tell them I'm a minimalist and they're like, oh, I would never know. You don't look like a minimalist or dress like a minimalist. I'm like, because I wear my whole closet. So I probably wear similar amount of clothing as other people. I just don't own the other 80%.
So you guys obviously would identify as like quote unquote minimalists. How do other people react to that in your guys' lives? Friends, family?
Yeah, you know what I love is it's a conversation starter. Whenever I say, oh yeah, I have this podcast called Millennial Minimalists, Lauren and myself, we are minimalists. They'll be like, oh, you know what? I have a closet full of stuff and I've started to go through it. They have a story to share, which is the best. I love that. That's the best. Everyone can talk about it. Everyone can relate to it. And I think one of the biggest issues today is that baby boomers have so much excess stuff and their adult children don't want their stuff. And that's a problem that we really want to solve.
It's a big problem. So on Sunday, my grandfather passed away this past month or so.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. But long life, all good. But we were cleaning out his house on Sunday. Yeah. And so a lot of minimalism stuff was going through my head because he was 97. Like he was born in 1926. He grew up during the Great Depression.
Crazy.
And I think I have some of his like Great Depression genes in me because just, the not wanting to get rid of things just in case you need them or because you just hate waste or because it's like a free thing, like the freebies thing, right? Like you just don't want to say no to like a free thing when things cost money and stuff. But man, he had so much stuff in his house and maybe 1% of it is stuff that people actually wanted. Like as we were clearing it out. And it was just, all I was picturing was the amount of like life energy and the amount of money that it costs to buy all these different things. And I was like, man, that's just like, I don't know, a lifetime of money that went into purchasing these things that could have been used for all these different things.
Experiences over things, we like to say.
Experiences. And then, so we're selling his house and it's probably worth about $900,000. And he had the mortgage paid off and everything. But in his later years, he really like held himself back from living the most full life he could have. Like he could have had a house cleaner in there helping him clean. He could have had people helping around the house, and he's really, really struggling through his later years. And he wanted to have this thing to pass down, which is great. But it was like, you could have tapped into some of your money and just had an easier life. And it would have made everyone's lives in my family a lot easier because we picked up a lot of the slack. And I think everyone would have been happier with that. And he just grew up in such a different era, I think, where he grew up dirt poor in the Great Depression, like 9 brothers and sisters on like a farm. And he just accumulated things throughout his whole life. And I think to your point about how it's different for us, you know, that's definitely something to take into consideration. But because it is so different for us, because we have so much excess now, I think you need to fight back against that.
Were you with your family members going through the things together?
Yeah.
And what did you do with the excess stuff that you didn't want?
Dump. Yeah. Got a dumpster on the driveway.
You didn't sell any items or donate any?
So we held a bunch in the garage actually to donate to Habitat for Humanity.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And how was that experience for you and your family? Do you think that it brought you closer in ways?
So my mom is very sentimental. So there was a ton of things that we were like, yep. Like dump, like I was like, dump it all. You know what I mean? Like aside from photos and some very, very, very maybe precious sentimental items, but there's like this old plastic Christmas tree we would use every like family Christmas. And my mom was like, do you know how old this Christmas tree is? This is like 1950s vintage. She's like, I'm keeping that. And in my head, I'm like, all of the stuff I saw my mom keeping in my head, I'm like, I'm going to be getting rid of that 20, 30 years from now. And it's all this stuff that she's keeping. And I was like, this is how it just gets passed down generation to generation. So yeah, it was interesting going through it. There was a couple things that I held on to because I thought they would bring value to my life. And so we brought them home. I think like one chair, maybe I think, and a couple tools. And I was like, but if I don't use these things, I'm going to pass them on.
Right.
I love that you said, you know, it's just 2 or 3 things that really meant something to you and would bring value, or that, you know, brought back that memory of your grandfather. You don't need a whole house full of stuff to keep.
Yeah. It's tough. It's definitely a practice.
Yeah.
So the sentimental items one specifically, where do you find people struggle with that one?
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's sentimental, right, in our lives. A lot of it can be. I mean, I know my dad specifically got a lot of stuff from his family. And, you know, but there are items that are just sitting there collecting dust. If that's the case, you can just take a picture of it. I highly recommend that. And a lot of the items could be useful for someone else. Like my grandmother had all these beautiful coats, and my dad finally decided, let's just sell these coats because they're just sitting in the basement collecting dust, right? And there's, you know, my parents are almost retired. My mom just retired. My dad's still working, but my mom is slowly going through all the items in the basement. And it's been such a rewarding process for her, but also me. She's like, oh my goodness, look what I did. Like, it's so exciting.
It is a fun process going through that stuff.
It's such a, and it's,
even if you don't keep it.
Yeah, even if you don't keep it. I mean, especially if you don't keep it, it's the best feeling in the world. Especially whenever I let go of something, and Lauren always says, she comes to my house and I have less and less. When I let go of something, even if I don't sell it, even if I originally want to sell it and I just end up donating it, it's like, oh my goodness, now I don't have to worry about that item. You know, it just feels so much better.
Do you ever feel a bit of resistance to getting rid of it, but then immediately after you fight through that and get rid of it, you're like, God, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah. So I always remind people, you know, let's say you have an expensive, I don't know, suit or dress, and you're like, oh, I can't sell it because, you know, I might wear it one day, but you know deep down that you won't. So then but you're like, oh, I don't want to get rid of it. But I guarantee you, once you get rid of it, you sell it, you donate it, whatever, you will forget that you ever even owned it.
Yeah, you'll never think about it again.
Which is the best thing.
Yeah.
I love it. So I always tell people that, okay, don't worry. It's going to be hard for a day, but then after a day, you're going to forget about it.
It's such a mind trip.
Yeah.
You literally never think about it.
I honestly can't think of one item that I let go of that I regret.
Huh.
Because, and also think about it, like, it's so funny, especially when people go on vacation. They're like, oh, I'm going away for a week. And they bring these big suitcases and they're always checking a bag. And I'm like, my goodness, like you don't need all that stuff. And then I challenge people to, when you come home from your vacation for a week with that big bag that an airline could potentially lose. So be careful with that. That's why I always carry on, because I lost a bag way back in the day. So I'm like, never again. Look through those items and see how many pieces that you actually wore or things that you actually use, because you'll probably be only 20% and you could have had a carry-on. And I joke with Lauren the other day, she went to Boston and she brought a little carry-on, but I always say her carry-on is always like half full. And I was like, well, you probably could have brought a backpack. She's like, yeah, but then people would have been thinking you're scary. You're psycho.
I could probably get my whole wardrobe in a carry-on.
There's definitely a spectrum of minimalism, and
Definitely.
Oh, for sure. And you have to find what's right for you.
Every lifestyle looks completely different. I like to remind people that, we have the listener who's kind of a famous painter in France. And, a part of her lifestyle is to have a lot of paints and paintbrushes, and the place will get messy, but it's intentional mess. Like, this is a part, if you're a fashionista, you can have a larger closet with more items in it, right? And for me, it's like, I love photos, I love photography. So my digital excess is a little bit more than someone else's. So it's really being mindful about where that excess is.
Yeah. I've always thought to myself, like, I want to be a minimalist in everything except like my wealth. Like, I want as much assets as possible. And even then, I know one day, hopefully I'll hit that number. And I know I need to be intentional about setting a number, because then I can, move on to other things in life. But I want to be a minimalist with everything else, and there's other things, friendships, sure, meaningful conversation, sure, a maximalist. But it does come down to intention.
It does, yeah.
But if you hit that degree of wealth, maybe you're financially independent, and then you can volunteer with things, or you can do passion projects you don't necessarily get paid for, or there's so many benefits to that people don't recognize. It's not like minimalists are allergic to money. Like, once you have money, or you, like I said, that financial independence, you can put your time into a lot more meaningful things instead of maybe just going to a 9-to-5 job that you don't enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Everyone struggles with time, and this is a way to get your time back.
For sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And a lot of people think, like, I need to make X number of dollars to be happy. It's like, how do you know that? It's people, you always say, Lauren, she's like, think about your number. What's your number? Figure out what your number is. What would make you happy, right? And a lot of people don't know what that is. And people are like, oh, well, minimalists, don't have a lot of money, don't have a lot of stuff, and that's why they're minimalists. Like, no. There are billionaires who are minimalists. It's about being mindful with how you spend your money.
Yeah.
And I would say the best benefit of this lifestyle is that you can design your life around your work life versus the other way around. I think in life we learn, go to college, then go get a job, and then have that job set the precedent for every other area of your life. Like, they're going to take over X number of hours, and then you can fill in the holes. No, you should be able to say, hey, this is my life, and then fill in each piece. Yeah.
So learning about minimalism, to me, like, is almost like seeing the Matrix for what it is after it. Like, once you go down the rabbit hole, you're like, you just start noticing the way people live their lives and how much their stuff is controlling them, or all the clutter. And one thing I've noticed, because I just have this like lens on now, like these glasses of minimalism, is that a lot of super successful and wealthy people are actually minimalists, and they might not even know it. They might not describe themselves as that, but hearing them in podcasts and, describing their lifestyles or what they do, it's very minimalistic. Like, they're just focusing on the things that really push the needle for them. Like, some of them are wearing the same outfits every day. Like, they are the biggest minimalists out there. A lot of them don't own their own homes. They rent their homes. It gives them more location flexibility. You're not locked into a mortgage. It's like, you realize that a lot of successful people are minimalists.
But to reach that degree of success, look at the time that would take.
Yes.
So you would virtually have to simplify every other area of your life and naturally become a minimalist. And I also want to say, with money, a lot of people never think of this, but work backwards. Figure out what you want in the life you want, and figure out how much that costs. I feel like, money in our society is such a status symbol. It's like, I make this much, I drive this car, I have this much in savings, I have this much in investing, or I want to make this much a year. It's like an arbitrary number that we're all chasing after. But if you sit down and actually ask yourself, where do I want to live? What kind of car do I want to drive? What do I want to be doing in my free time? And then figure out how much that costs and how much you need to be making. That's a lot more intentional of a life than, I want to make $1 million a year. Okay, why? Like, what are you going to spend that money on? And it's like, I want to drive a nice car. Why? Do you love cars? Are you passionate about them? Do you go to car shows? Do you read about cars? Or is it because you just want to drive around a nice car so that people think you're successful and they think more highly of you? So like, really
the person at the stoplight for like 3 seconds looking over at you.
Yeah, for sure. So it's like, questioning, and we all have areas of our lives where maybe we want to buy, if you love fashion, maybe you want to buy a luxury bag, or if you like cars, you can buy a nice car, or if you love home design or interior design, maybe that's where you put your money. But we're not all obsessed with every area of our lives, so you can pick and choose where you want to spend money.
I think if it was the right decision if you don't feel trapped by the purchase after.
For sure.
Like a car. I knew a guy, I used to work in a Pepsi warehouse when I was like 20, and we were making good money. And one guy was my age, so he was also 20, and he went out and bought a Camaro. And it was like a $60,000 car, which was like our salary at the time. And 2 years later, he's like, man, I regret this purchase so much. Like, he's like, I'm trapped by it. Like, I just want to sell it. And by then it had depreciated so much. And it was just like such a trap that he fell into. And we all knew it around him too. We're like, damn, man, like, I don't know. Don't you want to go to school? Don't you want to get out of this warehouse?
Yeah.
Like, do something else?
Be intentional with how you spend that money. People can say, oh, I want to make $1 million. And then if they do, and then they start spending $2 million, right? It's about being intentional about how you spend it. And we always say minimalists can still own nice things. We own nice things. I would say the less you
Probably
own,
nicer things.
the nicer things you can own.
It's a paradox.
It is. Because think about it. A lot of people, they'll buy, let's say, like 10 fast fashion shirts.
Yeah.
That only lasts a couple washes, when you could just buy 2 or 3 really high quality shirts that can last you years and years. So
And then
The cost to wear you mentioned earlier.
yeah. Price per wear.
Price per wear. Can you explain that?
Yeah. Well, Lauren's a go-to with that. So I'll give that to you.
So it's taking the item, how much it costs, and dividing it by the number of times you'll wear it.
Yep.
So if you buy say you buy a shirt for $100, you should wear it at least 30 times. So price per wear should be about $3 or less. If you buy a top for $30, you should wear it at least 10 times. This is getting the financial price out of how much your clothes are, like getting the worth out of them.
So that's just a rule you've set for yourself?
That's what I've read on the internet. $3
You're like, I'll go with that.
That's like a good, for how much when you're spending money on clothes. It's kind of like the rule of thumb.
Yeah.
So if you're going to spend $1,000 on a jacket, you should be wearing it 300 times.
Yeah. Something like that. So.
Are there other rules like that you guys?
I wouldn't say they're rules. It's just methods that have worked for people, right?
Yeah, frameworks for yourself.
Frameworks. I mean, I have this tweed jacket, and it's so satisfying when someone's like, "Wow, your jacket's so beautiful," and it's like, "Yeah, I bought it 13 years ago," and they're like, "What? It looks brand new." It's like, honestly, when you own less, and Gretchen Rubin always says this, when you get rid of the things that are getting in your way, you end up taking better care of the things that you do use, right? And so we take really good care and pride in the things that we do own. And so they last a lot longer. We feel better every day. I feel better in my clothes. You just feel, it just, when something hits you in your life that's challenging, you know that you have built a foundation that is simplified, and that keeps a sense of calm in your home and in your mind, and that makes it easier to work through.
So where do you guys see people get tripped up with this stuff? What holds them back from adopting this for themselves?
I think it's the fear of getting started. It's just overwhelming, especially if there's clutter in all areas, right? Is where do I start? Again, it goes back to the drawing board of what is your why? What is stressing you out the most right now? Write a list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 1, start there. I would say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you start with the biggest thing.
I would start with the biggest thing. It's just like at the top of the day when, let's say it's a Monday morning and you're just dreading one thing that you need to get off your list. Do that first. Then everything's easier after. So
I think the hardest part too is people don't want to admit that they have spent all of this money on all of this stuff.
That's the hardest part for me.
And they're like,
you dummy.
Yeah. So
you absolute dummy. How many years of your life have you traded for these stupid things?
I know. And it's like, I'd rather, ignorance is bliss. I'd rather just sit my home.
Oh, it's so painful.
Yes. So
but the earlier you start, you stop the bleeding.
You stop it. Yeah. And the thing is, you won't have to manage that stuff anymore, so you'll get your time back, and you will be so ruthless with purchasing stuff in the future. And there's so many times, like even having done my closet this way, I can look at a piece of clothing and be like, is this something I'm going to wear for 3 years, or is this something I'm going to wear twice and get rid of? Mm-hmm. And when you're purging your stuff, you're going through your stuff, you're like, oh my God, I just shop for entertainment. I buy this little trinket. I use it once or twice or play with it like a little kid. And then I just throw it in the corner and don't look at it again. And once you're aware of that, you will stop doing it.
Mm-hmm. Now it bothers me to see people get caught up with their stuff. I know I'm just like projecting onto them. Yeah. Like it's a reflection of like what I've found myself to do, or what I've regretted about past decisions, like buying stuff I didn't need. And when I see other people doing it now, I'm just like, oh man, like don't do it. And it just like eats away at me, but I know I'm just pissed off at my former self for spending all this money on stupid stuff.
But you have to start somewhere. And I have to tell you, once you get to the other side, you're like, oh, this was so worth it. Yeah. And the problem is people are like, oh, I don't know where to start. Or if I do know where to start, it's like, I don't have enough time. So I recommend, we all have the same amount of time in a day. I recommend habit stacking. It was BJ Fogg, I believe, who's a professor and best-selling author, who talks about habit stacking. So if you already built a positive habit, add a new habit onto that habit. So for example, I have my morning routine. I love my athletic greens. I have some food. I exercise, and it's like, and I brush my teeth. I'm always brushing my teeth. I brush my teeth too much. People always make fun of me, but
brush teeth maximalist.
If you have, exactly. If you have an extra you just make it an extra 5 minutes in the morning, declutter some photos on your phone, tidy up your kitchen, just take 5 minutes and it will stack up every day. I always say, for example, if you want to lose weight, it's a tiny process. So start by just driving to the gym and back. Mm-hmm. That's one step. Then go into the gym, go for 10 minutes, go for 15 minutes. And each time you do it, you'll get better and better and better and better at it. Mm-hmm. And then you'll see results, right? So it's a slow progress with anything. And it goes back to systems and habits. It's all habits. Yeah. You have to change your habits. You have to let go of some bad habits and adopt new, better habits. And we actually talk about that in our upcoming episode. So
this actually feels like a productivity conversation, mm-hmm. almost more so than anything else.
Oh my gosh, with this lifestyle, you become more productive in all areas of your life because you have more focus, right? You have more calm, and so you can focus better. And yeah, it's
one thing on the phone. So I decluttered a bunch of photos that I had and
great.
Deleted a bunch of duplicates and stuff. And then I organized my pictures into different little albums. So when you want to show someone something from a vacation you took or something you saw and you're like, I just can't find it. And you're sitting there for like 5 minutes scrolling and you're like, you know what? Like, forget it. But like the thing, it was cool. And you just go back to trying to describe it again. Now I know where everything is. So I can go to that album and be like, yep, here it is. Pull it up real quick. And it's been like a huge little life hack.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah. And another thing that I started before but failed at it because I gave myself the option to go back was I put my phone in grayscale mode.
Yeah, I have an opinion on that.
Yeah?
How did that work for you?
So I had set it up as a shortcut on my iPhone where you click the side button 3 times and it can toggle back and forth between color and grayscale.
Oh, neat.
So the reason I did grayscale is because I heard that you, across the board, use your phone 30% less if your phone's in grayscale versus the colors, because it just doesn't engage your brain the same way.
Interesting.
But because I gave myself the easy out, I'd, started off great, like any habit, and then I'd switch back, more and more frequently. And then eventually I was just back to all color, never went to grayscale. So now I just switched it. So now it's huge pain because I have to remember how to even change the setting in my settings app and go through and find the grayscale color filters and switch it. And I always forget how. So now it's just stuck in grayscale. And like instantly I'm just like, this thing sucks to look at now. Like I don't even want to look at it.
I love it.
But it is annoying when you want to show someone a photo, for example, and they're like, what the hell, man? What happened to your phone?
100 years ago.
But I would say, like a lot of things, you have to think about the bigger picture and the net benefit. Yeah. So the net benefit to my life is having my phone in grayscale because I use it way less. I get more of my time back for whatever, for more important things. But the small little negatives, and there's little small negatives with anything, right? Is that like it's a bit annoying sometimes if I want to show someone something, but then it's like, who cares? The net benefit is there.
That's right.
For sure.
Well said.
Yeah,
I love that. You're challenging yourself.
I am.
That's what this lifestyle's all about.
Yeah.
You know, if your life isn't what you want it to be today, then you need to make some changes. And it usually starts with your habits.
I think minimalism is the most underrated aspect of personal development.
For sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it is personal development. That's what it is.
True.
Yeah. It's, I always like to say it's a way to face yourself. And that's the scariest thing. And that's why people get scared to start. That's why you had some responses from people in your life. They're like, oh no, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it because even though I know that the other side will make me happier. Mm-hmm. So knowing that, we just need to really push that forward. Okay, it's going to make you happier.
Yeah.
Everything is going to be lighter.
Well, so when I got started, I was still living at home with my family.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so it started with my bedroom. Mm-hmm. Like that was my own space, full, complete ownership over it. So I started purging everything. And like, you guys know how it goes. You get on a roll and you finish with one thing. You're like, what's next? Like, I'm getting rid of everything. Like there's nothing left after this. And you just get on a huge roll. And what was next for me, naturally, was the rest of the house. But it's not my house. It's my family's house. So I started questioning all these different things. Like, guys, do we really need this? Do we use this? And I just got on everyone's nerves. And everyone was starting to get pissed off with me. And now looking back, I get it. Because they weren't in the same mind frame, the mindset. They weren't diving down this rabbit hole. So for me, it was just like a huge push for me to just get out of the house, move out. Because I could just create my own space. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have that pushback from people.
Yeah.
Now, have any of your family members adopted this mindset at all? Or are they seeing the benefits that you are getting from living a simpler life?
Probably. Yeah. They haven't admitted it. They have.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's
but
great.
in small ways, possibly.
Over the past 5 years, Lauren and we have seen our mothers come a long way.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful to see. You know, I get messages from my mom. She's sending me, oh, look what I did with the cupboard. I decluttered it and organized it all perfectly. And she gets so excited. And I'm like, this is amazing. I never told you to do anything with that cupboard. I never told you to clean out X area. But I remember when I started the podcast, it's funny. Lauren and I like to joke around too, and we'll send each other pictures. And I took a picture of my family garage because my dad had bought something to store all these boxes he doesn't use. And it was like, you never want to buy something to store things you don't use.
Yes.
And, you know, I felt bad because my dad was so excited. He's like, look what this compartment that holds all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but do you use all that stuff? He's like, yeah, maybe not, you know? It's like, we recommend going through your stuff before buying new stuff, right? You want to declutter the stuff and then get whatever you need to organize the stuff if you need it.
Yeah, so. I wanted to ask you guys about that, like getting rid of stuff versus organizing it.
Oh, it's completely different. Yeah.
Two different things, right? Like when you're organizing the stuff you should be keeping.
Well, I mean, there's the show, The Home Edit. I love the show. But, you know, we have our own criticisms. It's, you know, they help families organize their spaces, but the families aren't there with the organizers in the process. So the question is, how are they going to learn the behavior, right? How are they going to learn those habits they need to sustain this space in an organized way, right? So we really advocate for people working together in the process so that they learn how to maintain it, right? The whole idea is like, oh, well, I'd love to see what that space looks like 2 months later. I'd love to see how the people have maintained it, right?
Yeah, it's like the weight loss shows.
Yeah, exactly.
You got rid of the weight. Can you keep it up?
That's right. You need to learn the behavior. You need to learn the system, as you said before.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, organizing takes time, which is fine. If you want stuff and you want it organized, great. I don't want to spend my days organizing 20 sweaters I don't wear. I want to spend my time out living life, experiencing it. Like, you know, not to be cliche that life is short, but it goes by pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the few apps on my phone is a death countdown timer.
Oh, I need that.
And it sounds morbid, but the theory behind it is like, if you go on a vacation, you know, you have 7 days in one place, you really value every single second and minute in that space. If you know you've got 52 years left, which is about what mine, and it's going off averages. Hopefully I'm healthy, I live longer.
Yeah.
But let's go with the 52 years. Holy shit, I can't waste a single day. Yeah,
I love that. I calculated, because it's like the average person lives to 79. So I calculated how many days that was and how many days I've lived. And I was like, oh my God, I only have this many days left.
Yeah.
It does. It like puts a timeline, and it makes a big difference of where you want to put your time.
Yeah.
If you want to spend it organizing, well, that's your decision. But I'd rather just have less stuff that I don't have to organize.
I mean, the average person lives 1,000 months. When you put it in that way, it's really scary.
Yeah. You're trading your life energy, your money that you earn to just buy this stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So where can people go to learn more, to dive into your content?
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
I didn't realize you had so many big name people in the minimalist space and all these authors and stuff on the show. That's awesome.
We have some amazing guests. We have a guest interview every month. We've interviewed so many best-selling authors. We even interviewed Dr. Jed Brewer. He's a neuroscientist. He talks about how to unwind our anxiety. We cover all topics of excess that get in our way. And you can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, at Millennial Minimalists, on Instagram and Facebook as well. And we specifically chose those 2 social media platforms because we are minimalists, and those are the platforms that give us the most value.
Okay. And on the website, you mentioned you had some resources?
Yeah, you can go to our website to learn more about us, our closet decluttering e-guide, as well as our live courses with Lauren at mastersimplicity.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you guys want to share? Perhaps best books or resources or things that helped you guys in your journey?
So I just want to end my last thought. This is not a life of deprivation. I think people are like, oh, I don't want to get rid of all my stuff. Like, with this, applying minimalism to your life and living this lifestyle, you get back so much more than you will ever get with a garage full of stuff or a closet full of stuff or a living room full of stuff. Like, you cannot put a price on your time and your relationships and your dreams, and you will be able to have time to pursue those instead of wandering around a mall or skimming a website or looking at your phone all day. It really puts things into perspective. So I don't want people to listen to this and think it's a life of deprivation, because it is the complete opposite of that.
Dope.
Yeah. I would challenge your listeners to think about what is their ideal version of what is their ideal lifestyle for them, and how can they simplify their life? How could they live with greater intention? I would inspire everybody to take a step back. That's something that a lot of us don't do. Take that time to step back for you, start writing, speak to someone. If everyone knows if they're not pursuing something that is meaningful to them. Mm-hmm. It's that feeling in your gut, and life is short, as we said. So take a moment to figure out what that is. If you already know what that is, start chipping away at the things that you can let go of so that you can pursue those things that are most meaningful to you.
Dope. Love it, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
This was so much fun. Thank you so much for having us.
We could talk forever.
I know.
Yeah, I could go
We'll do it again.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. You can find every new episode of the Your Life, Your Terms show on all the major streaming platforms. So Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. And if you'd like to get free copies of some of the books that we've put together, like these right here, or some of the reports that we've put together, like these right here, you can find all of those at www.rockstarinnercircle.com. That's www.rockstarinnercircle.com. That's it for now. Until next time, your life, your terms.